We've got proof that Colorado officials were warned long ago, weeks ago, about a Venezuelan gang that's gotten out of control and taken over apartments in Aurora. We've got that because we've got proof of the attorney's letters from the management company charged with managing these units. Let's get into it. Here we go. It's getting kind of hard to figure out exactly what's going on in Aurora, isn't it? You got the governor saying one thing. You've got city politicians, council people saying another thing. You've got the police saying one thing. Oh, we're going to clear it out. Oh, no, we're not. Attorney's letters warned Colorado officials of Venezuelan gang control at Aurora apartments. Aurora initially dismissed the claims. No good. Just people just talking. It's the narrative. It's the far right narrative. Has anything to do with the immigration deal and the illegals? Doesn't look good for current administration, who could possibly be, let's hope not, the future administration. Now, what a train wreck that would be. But so Aurora initially dismissed the claims, but later acknowledged gang activities and arrests. I'm not saying they haven't taken over the complex building, but they are in the community. And that's what these folks are saying, kind of out of both sides of their mouth, aren't they? Yeah, they are there, but they haven't taken. Okay, so then why are you going to throw everybody out? They've already kicked everybody out of one of these complexes. Crazy story. Letters obtained by the Denver Gazette from the law firm representing CBZ Management. They're the management company tasked with managing these complexes, whose apartment complexes in Aurora was shut down over what the city described as safety issues last month. We need to get rid of the illegals, and there's a whole gang from, Venezuela called Tren de Aragua, and by whole gang I mean a loose coalition of prison gang members that are operating here in the city. But let's not talk about gangs. Let's go with safety issues, and then we'll boot everybody out. So this letter shows officials were fully aware weeks ago of accusations that a Venezuelan gang had forcibly taken control of the property. I'm not going to play it for you, but you've seen the video that came out within the last week. And that video showed Venezuelan gang members from Tren de Aragua running through an apartment complex, opening up a door, and they had guns, they had handguns, they had an AR-15 styled gun. And then shortly after that video was shot, somebody was shot outside that door that they showed. So, okay, safety issues. Yep. Getting shot is a safety issue. In an August 28 letter to Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser, the law firm wrote that CBZ Management had been informed that Aurora multifamily projects have been forcibly taken control of by gangs that have immigrated here from Venezuela. Remember, this is the management company and it's their attorneys. So the attorneys are writing to officials in Aurora saying, hey, we need some help here. We need some help. And what does the governor of Colorado do? It's a figment of your imagination. Literally. That's what the governor said. Governor said, the Venezuelans taking over Aurora, that's a figment of somebody's imagination. Based in Brooklyn, CBZ Management operates rental apartments in New York and Colorado with 11 properties in Denver, Aurora, Colorado Springs, and Pueblo. Aurora officials initially dismissed the company's claims publicly, calling them diversionary tactics. Okay, so when gang members are running around with guns and shooting people, that is a diversionary tactic. Okay. All right. I got to remember that one next time. And alternative narratives. Oh, that's a good one. It's not the main narrative. It's the alternative. It's the one next to it. All right. So again, how do you spin Venezuelan Tren de Aragua prison gang running around, taking over? How is that being spun as an alternative narrative? Good question, right? The issue, the city insisted, was the numerous violations of the local government's code that I heard had been cleaned up, and they had acceptance with a note from the government saying everything's been taken care of. Okay. So there have been lots of issues in the past on these projects, is my understanding. but vast majority of those had been taken care of. So then how about those Venezuelan prison gangs? What about them? Don't talk about them. It's a diversionary tactic, or it's an alternative narrative. Officials have since walked back those claims that the issue that the city insisted was numerous violations in the local government code. That's what they walked back. Yeah, no, not so much. I mean, maybe it wasn't as much diversionary tactics. Maybe it was the gang members walking around with guns and getting in fights with people and collecting rent and just basically creating a lawless environment that is outside of the police control in city of Aurora and management of the apartment complex where this stuff is going on has basically reached out and said, hey, help us. Oh, can't help you. That'd be a diversionary tactic. No can do. The Aurora complex is affected by gangs based on reports included the Aspen Grove, the Whispering Pines, and the Edge. Just the Edge at Lowry's. Last week, the city acknowledged that authorities earlier arrested a documented Tren de Aragua gang member twice. Okay. All right. Over a shooting incident and a separate case in which a man was badly beaten at another apartment complex. All right. So somebody got the beat down. Somebody just got, and then somebody got shot. So those are diversionary tactics and alternative narratives as well. Or, a shooting. It's hard to say, right? Yeah. You just got a lot of gang activity. What I would say is that how you define apartment complexes being taken over, that is another wild. I mean, how do you define that? What does that consist of? I mean, if you've got gang members running around shooting people and running through the complex with handguns and AR-style rifles, some would say that is a takeover. Some would say. It's hard to say, though, right? I mean, it really is, because you've got these multiple narratives going on, and which one do you believe? Now, I believe the ones where they say, somebody got shot. Okay. All right. Well, so any which way, there's gang activity here, isn't there? Period. We know it. We know it. After the first arrest, that gang member, court documents revealed, was released on a bond. It was the first time that the city acknowledged authorities held in their custody a potential ringleader of the Venezuelan prison gang, Tren de Aragua. So now they're having to come out and admit what they've got going on, that they've known has been going on, that according to this article says over 5 weeks ago, city officials knew that there were documented members of Tren de Aragua, which local and federal officials earlier said is operating in Metro Denver. Okay, it's in Denver, it's in Aurora, it's in Portland, it's in El Paso, it is in New York City, it's all over. Wherever you've got Venezuelans, you've probably got Tren de Aragua. Let's just say that. Are they operating heavily? Kind of depends on what the community is like. If there's a ton of Venezuelans, then there's a high probability you've got a little bit more activity than not of Tren de Aragua. I mean, that's just how this goes, right? The property manager for all 3 Aurora multifamily projects was notified of the takeover, and one of our clients' housekeepers informed the property manager not to return to the Aurora multifamily projects due to the danger to his well-being, the attorney for CBZ Management wrote. Okay, all right. So either they've seen what's going on and they are just, dealing with it straight on. Hey, you might not want to go there. You might not want to go back there. You might get killed. Which, all right, okay. Even right before this podcast, I was watching Tyler Oliveira, another YouTuber, and he went there and he was getting the same answers. You'd ask one individual and it was readily apparent that Tren de Aragua is there no matter what, or a gang is there. Because a lot of folks were saying, for my own safety, I'd rather really not comment on this. And some would say, yeah, they're running this whole complex. Other would say, yeah, they're here, but they haven't taken over. And some people would say, you know what? It's not the gang violence. It's the rats. It's the property conditions. It's the garbage. Okay. These are low-end slumlord projects, right? That's what they are. That's why you've got a whole bunch of migrants in them, because oftentimes they don't have work authorization, or if they do, they're still not making a ton of money. They need to go live somewhere cheap. This is where they're living. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but whether or not a gang is taken over, I believe they have to an extent, period. That's what I believe. Have they absolutely, are these entire 3 projects absolutely 100% run by the gangs? No, I don't think so. But they certainly have a presence and they certainly have an influence, and it's not necessarily a good one. In the letter to Weiser, the attorney said the company was informed that the Aurora Police Department was unable to take effective action due to a consent decree with the Colorado Attorney General's office. No, I can't do anything. We're on a lockdown. We're on a consent decree. No can do. Our clients, for several months, complained to the Aurora Police Department and Aurora Code Enforcement Division about the lawlessness surrounding the Aurora multifamily projects, the letter stated. For the most part, the responses had been very little and totally ineffective. Oh, you got some gangs at your place. Unlucky you. That's unfortunate. Any of the gang narrative, it doesn't bode well for the whole wide open southern border thing, does it? No. It's a real issue. Wide open southern border, huge issue going into the elections. Any of these stories bring light to the fact that, yep, that happened, and these are the repercussions. Oh, we let 7 million people into the country. I thought they were all good people. Nothing would happen. I thought everybody just live in harmony and we all sing Kumbaya. Well, that's not exactly how this has gone, especially when you've got population of Venezuela just being emptied out. A third of the population is emptied out, and they're emptying out their prisons. We know this for a fact. Where you think they're going? They're going here. And some of them ended up here. The police department is emerging from years of scrutiny over its handling of the 2019 death of 23-year-old Elijah McClain, who died after encounter with officers. Okay. The gang takeover occurred on June 27th, according to the law firm. Law firm did not respond to a phone call and email seeking comment. I think I started reading about this in early July, something like that. Laurent Pachenko, a Weiser spokesperson, confirmed the letter's authenticity to the Denver Gazette Tuesday. Yep, we wrote that letter. We said that stuff. That's literally all that means, right? The Attorney General's office advised the attorneys to contact local law enforcement with concerns about criminal activity on the property. Hey, they've taken over our building. We need some help. Why don't you call 911 and with your concerns, and I'm sure they'll help you out. The reason they wrote a letter is so that they have proof. Hey, these are the steps that we have taken to try and regain control from this property because it's been taken over by Venezuelan gangs. Tricky situation, right? Because if you admit straight up that there's a gang problem. Oh, yeah. So what you got to do is it's got to be like, if you're a Democrat, you have to go down the whole, Antifa is a myth. You have to go down that whole roadway, because if you admit that they're there and it's happening, then you have to admit maybe they got there by going across the southern border and maybe they're illegal. Oh, and maybe that means we're letting illegal criminals involved in criminal activity, Tren de Aragua. It just doesn't look good, does it? It doesn't look good for the Harris campaign. It doesn't look good for the Biden administration, because the Harris campaign, she's already got 3.5 years in as vice president. I don't know what she did. Did she do anything? Anything. So I think this story coming out when it has is it's one of those storylines where people are reading it and going, what in the actual F are we doing here? Are they really taking over apartment complex? The truth is somewhere in the middle there. And actually, I think it's a little bit more truthful that gangs have taken over than the opposite, which is, it's just a bunch of code violations. Having already done that, reaching out to the police, the owners of CBZ Management, through its law firm, then reached out to Aurora City Manager Jason Batchelor. On July 3rd, the landlord's attorney wrote a similarly worded letter to Batchelor describing a dire situation and stated that the owners no longer have control of the properties, with residents being subjected to threats of physical violence and tyranny from the gangs. Is that actually happening? Yeah, it probably is. It probably is. Again, where I differentiate is saying that this is a complete takeover of the project. Okay. That's where I haven't seen any, 100% proof of that. The city said it's unable to immediately authenticate the letter because Batchelor is out this week. Okay, whatever. So this is a tough problem to admit to. Because if you do, opens up a huge can of worms, right? On Friday night, Aurora officials released a video insisting that gang members have not taken over the apartment complex, part of an aggressive campaign by the city to push back against some reports by national media outlets reporting an organized Venezuelan crime group has overrun the Colorado municipality. On July 2nd, email obtained by the Denver Gazette indicated the Aurora Police Department was aware of the violence at the apartment complex and was working to address it. How do you do that? What are you going to do there? Are you going to post a cop up in these properties? We're doing what we can to address the spike in violence in the community, and we'll continue to do so. Okay, so there is a spike of violence per Aurora's finest. Okay, there's a spike in violence. Mitchell is in charge of the police department's violent crime section. We are implementing a more proactive approach to the areas in our community that have seen an increase in violent crime. Still doesn't mean Venezuelan gangs have taken over, but it goes further down the road of, so who is committing the increase in violent crime? Okay. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of put these a couple of pieces together. Other stories you've got going on. You've got Governor Jared Polis gaslights on Tren de Aragua takeover of Aurora, Colorado apartment buildings. He basically just said, all right, here's that video. Let's just watch it again. I mean, what do you say? I don't think is there volume on this one? I don't even know. Let's watch it. Okay, just went into the building. Guys with guns, guys with handguns. There's a guy on the walkie-talkie. No, he's on his cell phone. You always want to say walkie-talkie though, right? Walking around. Where's Jose? We need to beat his ass or shoot him. And that's what they did. They shot him in the leg. Right? So, I mean, this footage right here has sparked this whole hysteria thing, hasn't it? It really, really has. And some of the hysteria is probably overblown, but I would say more of the hysteria is accurate than not. Accurate than not. It's an unhappy consequence of being a suburb of sanctuary city Denver. Remember, Aurora, where this is happening, is not a sanctuary city. They said ixnay to the illegals because they didn't have the budget for it. And they are run by a politician who understood his budget, and he didn't have millions and millions and millions of dollars to squander on lots of ridiculous things in order to virtue signal that you're a sanctuary city. So there's that. One chilling video shows suspected Tren de Aragua members. We just saw that. Another from the same complex shows two men breaking into a unit with a tire iron. As you do. Maybe they got locked out. Don't really know, right? Maybe they got locked out. No. This is gang activity. Mayor Mike Kaufman confirmed that at least 2 buildings have been taken over, calling it an organized criminal effort and adding, I think we're the victim of a failed policy at the southern border. Oh, shots fired. Shots fired. Yeah, clearly that is the issue. The Democrats, they don't want to admit that there's even, it's a false narrative. It's alternative narrative. This is fake news. They haven't taken over. They haven't taken over. City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky has warned, she's the one woman that has been saying, hey, this is going on. I worry about everything that I know regarding this gang, and I worry about everything that I don't know. Ooh. But despite the mountains of evidence, Governor Jared Polis is flat out denying that it's happening. On Wednesday, his office, Governor Jared Polis, of a Democrat, he's the Democratic governor of Colorado. On Wednesday, his office called the invasion a feature of Danielle Jurinsky's imagination, completely denying it. Just like Antifa is a myth, right? And then you cut to footage literally with buildings on fire that Antifa set on fire. Okay, well, I mean by, myth, we mean, you can't explain it away. And the official from the governor's office sneered that Polis really hopes that the city council members in charge stop trashing their own city when they are supposed to keep it safe. Okay, I think they're asking for help here. I think they're asking for help because there's an issue. Because Tren de Aragua is taking over an apartment complex by one measure or another. This is gaslighting at its worst. Was it Jurinsky's imagination when local ringleader Joe Hardy, Jose Pachenko, Criminal, and some of his thugs reportedly beat a man at one of these complexes? Or was he involved in a shooting that wounded two men at the same complex? Or when he was involved in a shooting that wounded two men at the same complex? Is that imagination? Are we just imagining? No, those things are happening. Okay, well then Tren de Aragua is more than likely here and operating, and very well could have taken over this project to some extent, to some degree. Again, we don't have actual proof of any of this. We've just got all of these crazy stories going on, right? Here's another one. Frenzy over Venezuelan gang in Aurora reaches crescendo, fueled by conflicting information and politics. Reports of Tren de Aragua gang members taking over Aurora complex is completely overblown, city council member says. I bet you that was a Democrat. I bet you that was a Democrat saying that. Oh, it's totally overblown. Oh, it's not happening. So let's, even former President Donald Trump weighed in during a podcast interview saying gangs were taking over big buildings with big rifles in the city. That's true. I mean, if the footage we saw is correct, and I have no reason to believe it wasn't, yep. That was an AR-styled rifle, wasn't it? Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman appeared on national TV and posted about the Venezuelan gang on his Facebook page. So he's trying to get the word out. Aurora and Denver police publicly acknowledge their Tren de Aragua in their cities, but say the gang's numbers are not large and they operate in isolated areas. Oh, I feel so much better. Now I can rest easy, right? Others say the Tren de Aragua presence in Aurora, a city of nearly 400,000 people, has been overhyped. So you've got Aurora next door to Denver. Denver has taken on 45,000 illegals, and a big percentage of those were from Venezuela. And because there's a housing shortage in Denver and housing is really, really expensive, you go wherever you need to find a cheap apartment. Well, Aurora, Colorado, which is not a sanctuary city, is where they are ending up. So this article goes on to say those stories are really overblown. If you didn't live here, you would swear we're being taken over by a gang and Aurora was under siege. Aurora City Councilwoman Stephanie Hancock said on Tuesday. That's simply not true. But you do have some gang violence. You have some gang thuggery. You have some gangs running around with guns in an apartment complex. You have people not feeling safe. That is true. So whether you want to hang your hat on it's completely taken over or not, this stuff is going on. There's just no way all of this is just completely fake. Disputing claims over gang takeover, Aurora tenants protest slumlord owner. Here's the spin. Here's the other spin. Here is the alternative narrative. That's what this is. It's a slumlord. This slumlord's not taking care of the project. It's not the gangs. Well, did the deteriorating condition of the apartment complex, did that shoot somebody? Is that what's causing the fear of people living in this complex? Is the deteriorating condition, again, the mold, the lack of running water, the garbage that hasn't been taken out, broken windows? Is that causing people to be shot? Not so much. You know what it is? These are tenants, and quite a few of them are Venezuelan, and they don't want any more heat than they need to take. Things are already dicey for them. People are not, some people want to just welcome them with open arms. Other people are like, hey, we're paying a lot of money for you. And you're kind of running things into the ground, and then prison gangs come and they're doing crazy stuff. So what's up with all that? And you're taking away resources and you're competing with housing with us. So we don't like you. So the Venezuelans, the local Venezuelans in Aurora, they're going to push back and say, hey, this is not happening, because that makes it easier for them to operate and do their thing. Not operate as a gang, but just live their lives, right? They got enough uphill battles going on. In recent days, Aurora's Republican mayor, see that? Republican mayor. That's why there's so much pushback on these stories, because he's calling it like it is. Aurora's Republican mayor, its interim police chief, and a conservative city council member have all offered differing characterizations of the nature and extent of the alleged gang activity. But they're all alleging that there is gang activity. Far-right political commentators have described the situation in sensational terms, blaming Democrats for migrant gangs taking over Aurora, and falsely claiming that violent crime in the city, the third largest in Colorado with a population of roughly 400,000, has skyrocketed. Okay, that aside, is there a gang presence, Venezuelan prison gang in Aurora, Colorado? Are they living in these complexes? Yes. The answer is yes. So whatever you go from that point on, you've admitted that there's a huge issue, and that huge issue came over the southern border. Period. Because that's what we're trying to avoid, right? We're trying to avoid talking about the consequences of letting millions and millions and millions of people into the United States without vetting them. Just giving them a court date. Here you go. We'll see you in 4 years. Hope you show up. So that's what you got going on. To what extent has the gang taken over? Probably a moderate takeover. I don't even know, right? You're hearing one thing after another, and somewhere in that middle is what's actually going on. But I do believe there is a problem. I believe it's an ongoing problem. Law enforcement's going to have a really hard time taking care of that, because it's an infiltration, right? You're gonna kick everybody out and start over. All right, no Venezuelans in these projects. You gonna do that? No, you're not going to do that. So what's going to happen? Well, this issue goes on for a while, doesn't it? I mean, we keep talking about it for a while because it's an issue, because it's not good, and it's happening, and it's not an alternative narrative. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.